Good morning, everybody. Happy Tuesday. Happy Tuesday, coming down the final stretch. Alrighty. I know there's a couple of people who have extra things to do. I'm only, we're just going to introduce ballistics. There. So while you're waiting, we're waiting for everybody to come in. If you could give that unit a look-see. Savannah here. Nope, Savannah's not here yet. Mm. Where did I write that down? Good morning, good morning, good morning. All right, we're just waiting for a few more people to come in, and then I'm going to show a short video on ballistics, and I'll give y'all time to work on whatever needs to be worked on to make this last hurrah the best one. Let me stop sharing for a minute. Was there anybody else who missed the test? I think there were a couple of people. And actually, I need to check to see if it's still open. Okay, give me 1 second to check on that. Because I'm not sure it's still open. Yeah, there were quite a few people absent last Friday. I don't know what was so special about last Friday, but yeah, we got 5 or 6 of you. So give me 1 second to make sure it's still open. Okay. That's not what I wanted to do. Yeah, I think it's no. Yes, it's open till Wednesday, so you should be good. All right, so if you missed the test, and like I said, there were a few of you, the fingerprint test. There's the code. It's open till tomorrow, so please take it today. And that would be Candace. Is Jaden here? Kylie, Angel, Angel. Angel, please take the test. Okay. All right, Amon, you already know. Maya, uh, Ayana, and Lillian. I just saw Lillian. Right? No? Yes. Yes, Lillian, you're here. Please take the test. Um, Hold on, I think I have an. Hmm. Is DeAndre here? Trey is not here. Okay. So yeah, we have quite a few people who missed the test on Fridays. So. Serenity, you here? Not yet. Okay. Oh, Serenity, Trey, Lillian, Ayana is not here yet either. Oh, so sorry. Uh, I don't know what's in the atmosphere these days. I had to take my daughter to work this morning, and on the way back, I know there was a fatality accident. It's backed up for 20 minutes. It's getting rough out here. Y'all be careful. Take care of yourselves. All right, do what you got to do. All right, so for everybody else, I'm going to uh, show a short video. And then, like I said, I'm going to let you do what you need to do to catch up, do makeup work, do what you need to do. It could be this. Don't log out because I haven't done attendance yet. So, but if you're finished with everything, you don't owe me anything. You are more than welcome to work on what you need to work on.
We are talking about ballistics today. So, ballistics is the science of the propulsion, flight, and impact of projectiles. So, ballistics is basically the study of bullets and firearms. And by definition, a firearm is a weapon that's capable of firing a projectile, and it does this by using a confined explosive. So, specifically in forensics, ballistics involves the examination of evidence from firearms that may have been used in a crime. And there's a lot of information that ballistics can give or tell investigators. So, investigators can use ballistics to determine the type of firearm that was used, the caliber of bullet that was fired. And by caliber, we mean the diameter of the bore of a rifle or a handgun. The number of bullets that was fired, where a shooter was standing when they fired a weapon, the angle of impact from shooter to victim, if the firearm was used in a previous crime, and there's
Kylie,
others that aren't
test,
listed
please.
here, but these are the major points of ballistics. So you need to know that modern firearms are classified in two ways. So we have handguns and we have long guns. And so you need to know sort of the difference between the two. So generally, long guns are designed to be held by both hands and braced against the shoulder, whereas handguns can be fired with a single hand. So your handguns include things like pistols and revolvers. Long guns are going to include rifles and shotguns, and you can further classify these. But for our purposes for this class, just what you see on the screen is all you need to know. So you need to be able to recognize these in a picture. So if you see this picture, you need to say, hey, that is a long gun. Or if you see this picture, you need to say, I can classify that as a handgun. So we can get into a lot of detail, but we're not for forensics. All right, so both the rifle and the shotgun have long barrels, and we're going to talk about this in a second, but these long barrels create unique rifling marks on bullets as those bullets are propelled through the barrel. Now, handguns, and by handguns I mean pistols and revolvers, they're going to have shorter barrels, but these barrels, although they're short, also create unique rifling patterns on bullets. And so that's part of the lesson today. We're going to talk about how that makes bullets unique and how that has a huge impact on ballistics. All right, so let's start with the parts of a modern day cartridge. Okay, so you can see, and cartridges are going to differ, but just for simplicity's sake, this is the one that we're going to look at. We're going to go through the different parts. So starting with the bullet, this is going to be the projectile. And then you have the case, which basically just holds all the parts together. And then you have the gunpowder. And then you have the rim, which provides the extractor on the firearm a place to grip the casing so that it can be removed from the chamber once it's fired. And then you have the number 5 here is the primer, and that's going to ignite the propellant. Okay, so we're going to talk about how this whole process works. Now, it differs by weapon, but for simplicity's sake, if you'll just kind of watch this animation here, kind of explains what's going on. So basically the trigger's pulled, the firing pin, which is back here on the back, is going to hit the base of the cartridge. Again, let me go back. When we say cartridge, this is what we mean. It's going to hit the base of the cartridge. It's going to ignite the gunpowder that's inside the bullet. Now, what that's going to do is it's going to build pressure. So the pressure of the ignition is going to propel the bullet forward from the casing. It's going to move through the barrel. As it does that, it's going to create what's called rifling. We'll talk about that in just a second. And then your casing is ejected. All right, now, in forensics, firearm identification is going to be a method that's used to determine if a bullet or a cartridge was shot from a particular weapon. So every weapon is going to leave its own unique, reproducible markings on a bullet and on the cartridge that it was fired from. So that's regardless of gun type, style, manufacturer, all of those things. So you can think of it as a ballistics fingerprint. So if investigators recover bullets from a crime scene, then forensic examiners can test fire a suspect's gun and then compare the marks on the crime scene bullet to the marks on the test fired bullet to determine if there's a match. So the examiner is going to assess how similar the two sets of marks are, and ultimately they'll be able to tell, hey, this bullet was fired from this weapon, or this bullet was not fired from this weapon. Cartridge cases are compared the same way. We're going to go through and look at some unique markings that are found on the bullets and the cartridge casings. All right, so starting with the bullet, you can see here in the picture, you'll have scratch marks on the bullet. So you need to know where these scratch marks come from. Now, we don't call them scratch marks. We call them striations. So this is a vocabulary term you need to make sure that you're familiar with. So striations are scratch marks that are left on a projectile by the rifling lines that are inside of the barrel. Now, those rifling lines are called lands and grooves. So as the bullet is propelled forward through the barrel, the lands and grooves inside the barrel make unique scratches or striations on the bullet. And then investigators can take the bullet from a crime scene, compare it to a test-fired weapon bullet from a suspect's gun, and they can use split-screen microscopes to compare. So you can see here, they've used this split-screen microscope to compare the striation patterns, and they'll be able to determine if they're a match or not. Now, they can also use a process called topography to compare surface texture. So that's also a process that's used in addition to the split-screen microscopes. But both of those are processes that look at the striation patterns on bullets. Now, on the casing, you can also have something called a breech marking. So breech markings are marks that are left on spent cartridges. And you can see that in the picture here. You have breech markings. So when a firearm shot, the explosive force pushes the bullet forward. We mentioned this earlier. Newton's third law is going to send, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So the bullet's going to propel forward. The casing is going to move backwards, and it's going to hit a mechanism called the breech block. And the breech block is there to prevent the cartridge from shooting the user as it recoils. So it's going to stop the casing. So when it does that, because of the force, it's going to create a unique stamp. We call this a breech mark that's going to be produced on the back of the cartridge casing. And so these breech marks are unique, and they can also be viewed under a split-screen microscope to determine if they are a match. So if this cartridge was fired from a suspect weapon and compared to a crime scene casing, and there's a match, then that gives investigators some leadway. Now, another marking that is unique to a cartridge casing is something called a firing pin marking. So the firing pin of a firearm is going to also leave a unique stamp. So I'm going to go back to our animation so you can see where this is. So you have the firing pin that's going to punch the back of the primer, and it's going to ignite the gunpowder. And so where it sort of punches the back of the cartridge primer and rim, you get these unique marks. And so investigators can, again, they're like a fingerprint. So investigators can use a microscope or topography to determine if they were fired from a suspect's weapon or not. Now, another component of ballistics is gunshot residue. And for short, we'll call it GSR. So all firearms produce GSR when fired. And GSR is basically just different residues. So smoke, particles, unburned powder, nitrates. And so gunshot residue, these nitrates stick to a person when they fire a weapon, and there are tests that investigators can use to test for gunshot residue. And this can be helpful too. It can help determine if somebody fired a weapon or if somebody was exposed to the nitrates. Maybe they were in the same place when a weapon was fired. The amount of GSR is also going to be helpful to investigators. So if they are determining, if they identify GSR, their investigators know that the amount of GSR is going to decrease as the distance between the firearm and the victim increases, and vice versa. Gunshot residue is going to increase as the distance between the firearm and the victim decreases. And so all of this is used to sort of try to figure out the events that took place at a crime scene. Now, GSR can be removed by the washing of the hands, but there are going to be residual trace amounts of GSR that can show up on a test despite removal attempts. So that's also helpful. With a good attorney, though, it could be easily, you could say, I shook the hand of this person who went hunting that this morning, and I got gunshot residue on my hand. So gunshot residue is kind of tricky. It's helpful, but it's kind of tricky in an investigation. Now, GSR also creates patterns on victims when they're shot, so that can help investigators determine distance between the weapon that was fired and then the victim. And that's often helpful because if they can figure out where a shooter was standing, they might can get cartridge casings, spent cartridge casings, or other evidence that the person may have left behind. Trajectory is also used. So this is the physics of firearms and bullets and projectiles. So investigators they're able to calculate the bullet's path or trajectory. If you have watched any sort of documentary over the JFK assassination, then they for many years have used trajectory to try to figure out exactly where the person was shooting when they shot JFK. So this requires investigators to understand a lot of different things, how a bullet behaves once it leaves the weapon. There are so many factors that must be accounted for when trying to determine the trajectory of a bullet. But investigators are trained for this. They study this, they know this, they are very specialized in this. And so trajectory can be calculated, and it can be very helpful to investigators. All right, so what I want us to do before we end today is
Okay. It just all of a sudden stopped right
I'll
there.
give you a little assignment. I
I don't know what just happened. Everything seemed to do its own thing just now. All right, let's get back to the way I want it to look. All right, what you got, that was the end of the video anyway, so you didn't miss anything. All right, work. So I don't have anything new for you. Those of you who, like I said, want to make the grade look better, find a missing assignment that you have not done, and that's what you need to work on. Yes, grades are due tomorrow, so by the end of day tomorrow, I need to post grades. Like I said, everybody in here is a senior, so that goes for everybody. My whole screen just crashed. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. If there is something I can open for you, although I think I've opened almost everything that needed to be opened. A lot of you did not turn in your fingerprints. So if you're looking for something to do, that would be a good thing. Um, Okay. And let's see, Serenity still is not here. DeAndre is not here. Uh, Anaya is still not here. Okay. Jaden is not here. Okay. Um, all right, Savannah, I hope you're working on something. Renzo. All right, so I'm going to be checking the things that um, need to be checked. Some of you had some real last minute stuff turned in. And again, please don't log out, but you can work on whatever you need to work on. Give me a few to make sure attendance is in. Because you always have to do the bare authorization to do attendance. Hmm. I like Trey. So a lot of people missing again today. All right, that's done. Um, Great. All right. Hopefully, those of you, and there's still so many of you who needed to take the test who aren't even here today. I don't know where they are, but they're not here. Oh, here they are. Better late than never. All right. Who is that? Good morning, Jaden and Lorenzo. Jaden, I need you to take the test. Yes, Jaden, I just put the code in the chat. Please take the test. That's one. Who else? Lorenzo, I did get that assignment that you sent. Be nice if you had your fingerprint assignment. That would be helpful. Okay, and some of you are just one assignment away from where you need to be. Just find that one assignment that you didn't do and do that. I want to do my best to have everything, all these last minute assignments checked before you go today so that by tomorrow, because grades have to be posted tomorrow. Hmm. Who is that? Okay. I'll make it come to class. All right, so like I said earlier, some of you are just one assignment away from improving this score. A lot of you, it's your fingerprint assignment. So if you can get that in by tomorrow, things will be peachy. All right, so I have synced, just manually synced today's grades to Infinite Campus. So again, by this afternoon, you ought to be able to see if you're where you want to be, because tomorrow I have to post the grade. So right now it's just synced. Let me check to see if it did that. Yeah. Okay. Okay, lovely people. If you are in a good place to stop, go ahead and do so. I guess I commend all of you in this class. This is like my best class of the day, except with very few exceptions. Y'all have one. I've never seen so many hundreds and 99s, and so good job, you all. Good job. Good job. Make yourself proud as seniors. All right. I will see you all tomorrow. Have a great rest of your day.